maybe Obama and Putin can find some sort of compromise. I know the Americans were upset when Putin moved all this material in so quickly, but maybe there's some common ground.
I think it's definitely they won't be looking into each other's eyes.
I don't think that's going to happen.
For sure. What will happen is there will be a meeting which will be covered in a lot of in his feeling of cynicism from both sides, actually from Putin's side more than from anybody else's side. And I think it's a really great opportunity for both sides to see something that will be useful for both. So Putin, obviously, sanctions, counter-sanctions, Ukraine, Crimea, all that kind of thing, has been leading the country away from the West, and for all sorts of reasons. Now there is an opportunity to re-engage, that's one, but also there is an opportunity, and I think that is a really important thing to clarify for especially Western audiences, is actually that Putin's messages are sometimes aimed at domestic audience.
Yes,
almost
we
always,
often forget that, don't we?
Almost always aimed at domestic audiences, because every time they will be able to say, you know what, one blogger who works in one of the Oxford colleges for BBC Russian service website, he writes blog there, and he produced this amazing phrase. He said he just needs to come to the General Assembly, to stand there, not saying anything, and there will be already a historical moment. Because basically he will say, you know what, 4.5 years people were against Assad, they were against all that kind of stuff. Now you've got refugees, you've got IS, you've got all that kind of stuff, and here I am, and I am the only one person with a can-do attitude.
Very interesting.
We need Putin desperately, because he's the only conduct to Assad. I mean, Europe decided that Assad must go, the calendar is negotiable, and it's the only way we can try to do something about refugees, because even if Assad goes, the refugee question will stay. Because it will be even worse, as you say, about Turkey and Lebanon, the camps will be empty. Yeah. And fortunately, Europe had a plan about quotas.
And they kept it very well secret.
It was very difficult, because Eastern Europeans have a different conception of a Europe. They want a Christian Europe. We don't want to remain a multicultural Europe, but there's that plan. Will it work or not? We'll see. But Putin is the only hope to get to us.
So Putin is the savior of Europe?
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure about that, but at least we have to know the refugee question is the foremost in Europe.
If Europe has a plan, I would hate to see what not having a plan, I must say. Yes,
because you don't know what it is.
Solidarity, not with the East.
Britain take 20,000 in 5 years. It's shameful.
Okay, but let's get back to Putin.
Yes. The West left a vacuum and Putin walked in. The West can do nothing without American leadership, and Obama made it clear that he was not offering leadership on this. As a result, we will have to probably reduce any sort of tension we might have expressed over the annexing of Crimea. Putin has an open hand now, and he is the one who is saying, I have a solution to this, I have the key. And the Obama White House, which lost interest in foreign policy altogether, as far as I can see, has left the West in this position where it must appeal to Putin as the peacemaker of all things.
So, come back, but I mean, okay, boots on the ground. I mean, are we likely to see an engagement between Russian troops and ISIL?
Well, reports are that there are people who already help Syrian troops there on the ground, and we know that there are aircraft, all sorts of hardware. But question is, again, going back to the internal message, is the message that our troops are already there in Syria more important than what the troops are actually doing there? That's one thing. I think the important thing here is just a wider conversation between the West and Russia, is that they think maybe going from this hybrid war status, which has been in the last year or so, to hybrid peace kind of condition, it is better. That's one thing. And secondly, nobody will again look in Putin's eyes and look for some kind of peace there, but it will be a discussion between two boxers, between rounds. They will appreciate each other, and they will probably just understand that we are here for a reason, both of us.
Yes, and I mean, look at the alternatives. This is the thing we've discussed many times before. Obama says to people in the White House, "You don't like my Syria policy? Give me a try."
Yeah. Well, I disagree with Janet that Obama has wash his hands of foreign affairs. I mean, he had a major open toward Cuba and a major deal with Iran, and the Iran fits into this Russia thing in a partial, maybe dream world utopian type way, where you get some sort of grand coalition that can contain so-called Islamic State. It's possible. It's far-fetched. It doesn't bear a lot of ideological tests, but it's certainly an interesting idea.
You think Obama wants some sort of coalition that involves Islamic State?
No, against.
No, I'm saying you're assembling a lot of enemies of Islamic State with a common interest in keeping them down. And it sounds far-fetched, but what if in the last 18 months he comes up with a strategy that actually bears some fruit?
Another thing which I think Putin will be trying to emphasize without saying a lot, he will be referring to a Libya example, which a failed state completely collapsed after Western incursion. And you mentioned the refugees and migrants and everything else, and you know that actually Libya has become one of those places through which refugees go into Europe, right? So he will, trying to...
I mean, he's got Putin, whatever one thinks about him, Crimea and so on, he has got an analysis where Western policy has gone wrong. He's not actually very different from what you think.
No. Yes, Western policy was a catastrophe, and the incursion in Libya was a catastrophe because it was not seen through at all. They went in, they did some damage, and they left, and there was no American involvement to speak of, no American leadership. So naturally, the whole thing fell apart and left a worse situation than when they arrived.
You believe in really that the future for Europe is American leadership?
No. The West, militarily, the West is virtually helpless without American firepower and without American preparedness to lead. And that's just a fact.
Was not a military question, you could put as much hardware bomb, etc.
Europe were not prepared to follow up what used to be called the development they were not interested in developing a failed state. They just did damage to the leadership, decapitated it, and left. And that is the worst possible.
No, you have 1 million refugees.
Talking about American leadership and capital, we'll move on to Volkswagen, which has been decapitated in a different way. Margaret Thatcher once told us, you cannot buck the market. But the LIBOR case involving banks and interest rates, plus this week's scandal, which happens to be about Volkswagen, does prove that you can, to a point, fiddle and mess up the market until you get caught. The Edelman Trust Barometer notes a significant decline in trust in big business in general, not small businesses, big business. So what does this Volkswagen scandal tell us, if anything, about big business and the way we trust it or did it in the 21st century?
Well, big business industry they not just provide for the management numeration of shareholders. That's the lesson of Volkswagen. Because if you see the financial crisis of 2007, 2008 and the Volkswagen, it's exactly the same cause. You have feeling of impunity, arrogance, ego, cupidity, a political circle under control by the industry. It's all there. So there is a real must to bring ethics to business, because they need ethics, especially in consuming.
A lot of forward-thinking business leaders actually agree with quite a lot of that.
But the thing is, it's America, the land of unbridled free market capitalism, to this, which if you believe in Mark, actually believe in Mark, then you want it to run properly and you want to protect the interests of the consumer. That's one of the important lessons. And Europe, Mark, if you forgive my saying so, with all its social democratic ideas about solidarity and ethics, was letting this blithely go on for God knows how long.
It's still beginning to
hang on, the real
do anything.
The real corruption, the real unethical corruption, when you get between those in power in government and corporate. When you get a society that really is committed to the idea of free market economy, you get curious about regulation, prosecuting offenders.
I've got much explanation for all of that. I think that humans, deception is part of human society. I think just generally people lie. We have it everywhere. It could be, lies could happen in business, like it happens in government. We know what has happened here with the PEN scandal. We know what happened, Madoff scheme, Ponzi scheme, or we know all the Enron, exactly. So I just think that this is something that people, for their own benefit, whatever, obviously.
Certainly in the United States, was one of the few issues that I think
perhaps, and certainly the first popularity of Wayne is unmatched. I don't know if that's
No, you're right. It's almost we've lost.
No, Danish, very right. Every regulatory activity, the foreign exchange, all troubles is the way.
FIFA as well.
And FIFA is the US which has shown the way.
Much harder on white-collar crime than Europe. There is a kind of conspiracy of proper people who are solely in European countries that does not prevail in America.
A mugger's all right, but if you dash your tax money in Luxembourg, mugger's not all right. But
we'll look the other way.
We'll look the other way.
Yeah.
That's the other thing about this. You touched on it, which is, in the end, it's governments that we elect to sort this out by regulating themselves or creating regulators. The regulators, a whole swathe of those that we don't have any confidence in, including in charities in Britain. That's something that is a 21st century phenomenon.
Yeah, the lack, at least superficially, of a class system in America. Everything is run as a club in Britain and in a lot of European countries. Like-minded people who have come from similar backgrounds, similar education. That does not fail in America. I mean, there is a class system in America, but it's entirely based on money. It's not based on what you might call breeding or privilege or heritage privilege. There is feeling that everybody has started from nothing, and for everybody must be judged on a relative equal basis.
Do you think that is one of the flaws at the heart of the European bureaucracy? The regulators haven't been good enough and in everything. Finance, service,
that regulator for the 28th century that will make a weak regulator excellence, or do the show generally not as good. So because there's different of politics,
when you're a national
network,